If you want to design your life, you need a solid, reliable process. And I think I have just the process for you. And the best part is that anyone can use this process. And I know this because I've helped hundreds of clients in my psychotherapy practice to use this process to achieve their unique goals and to create an extraordinary life. I've used it to help people become happier. I've used it to help people find their purpose in life. I've used it to help people become more economically successful. I've used it for people to help hit their health-related goals. I've even used this process in my own life to lose 20 kgs and to post 3 social media videos a day. So regardless of where you are in life and where you'd like to be in life, I know this process can work for you. So let's jump right in. Now, achieving your goals and creating the life you want requires 4 steps if we use the psychotherapy process as a blueprint. It requires 4 steps. And I've used these 4 steps with multiple people, as I've said, to help them create the life they want. The first step is goal setting. The second step is formulation. The third step is treatment. And the fourth step is progress monitoring. All 4 steps are important, and you have to cycle through all 4 to get the results you want. So stick around until the end, because I think most people skip step number 4. But let's start with step 1, which is goal setting. So when a client walks into my office, I ask them, what do you want your life to look like? That's the first question I ask. What would happen if the process worked for you? How would you know that the process is working for you? Would you be happier? Would you have lost weight? Would you be richer? Would you be more connected to people? Would you feel more excitement on a daily basis? Would you have less anxiety? Those are the kinds of questions I ask to get a sense of what they want from the process. Now, since you don't have a therapist to help you with that, here are 3 action steps that you can take to complete the goal setting stage. Step 1 is to write down your vision. Write down the vision for what you want your life to be like, and go crazy here. So get out a piece of paper and just write down everything that you can think about. Just dump whatever comes to mind onto the page. And remember to include internal goals and external goals. So external goals are things like the amount of money you want to have, where you'd like to live, the kind of people you'd have around you. But internal goals are how you would feel on a daily basis. What would your happiness be like, your energy, and all sorts of things like that. So once you're done dumping down whatever you want in your vision, step 2 is to turn specific parts of that vision into goals. So you're going to look at what are the most important parts of this vision that I've written down, and then you're going to turn it into specific goals. You have to get very specific because you can't hit a target that you can't see. For example, when I wanted to lose weight, I didn't just say my goal is to lose weight. That was in my vision. But my goal became to lose 1 kilogram every week. And it's important to make your goal that specific because it's going to help with step 3. Step 3 is to turn your goals into behaviors. And then finally, to wrap up the goal setting phase of changing your life, you have to commit to the behaviors that you've written down. I had to commit to those behaviors in my own life, to going to the gym 5 days a week, and I had to commit to eating less than 2,000 calories. I knew it was going to come with some sacrifice and some discomfort, but you have to commit to it. If you don't commit to it, you're just going to be wishy-washy on this journey. So make sure that whatever behaviors you've written down for your goals, you can actually commit to. And once you're done with that, you're done with the goal setting phase. You're done with step 1. Then we can move on to step 2, which is formulation. Formulation is all about understanding what is getting in the way of the things you have to do. In step 2, this is what I try to help my clients understand. What are the external and internal blocks that are getting in the way of you doing the things that you know you have to do? What's getting in the way of those key behaviors that you outlined in step 1? You see, I do this in therapy because most people assume that if they know what they have to do, they're going to do it. But for a lot of us, it's not that simple. We actually have to understand what's getting in the way of doing what we have to do. A lot of us know what we have to do consciously, but we just don't do it. And that's because of the blocks. And that's why formulation is so important. It's so important to know what is getting in the way of doing what you have to do. So for example, with my own weight loss journey, I had to understand what is getting in the way of me eating the right amount of calories and going to the gym. And that's when I realized that some of the external blocks was firstly, wasting too much time in the morning and then not feeling like going later on. And then secondly, having too much junk food in the house. Those were the external blocks. But I also had internal blocks. I also rationalized a lot as to why I don't have to go to the gym. And another internal block was the actual cravings that arose. Whenever I didn't eat that much, I had these tremendous cravings and I had to learn how to deal with that. And once I identified these internal and external blocks, I was able to deal with them. Because as Michael Jordan once said, obstacles do not have to stop you. If you get to a wall, don't just turn around and walk away. You have to think about, how do I climb it? How do I work through it? Or how do I work around it? And that's what we're going to do in step 3, which is treatment. Treatment is all about how do I work around these blocks, or how do I work with these blocks. Up to this point, we have just formulated what's going on, but now it's time to take action. It's time to actually do what you need to do. Because ultimately, it's not the person who knows the most that gets the most done. It's the person who does the most that gets the most done. It's all about behavior. It's all about translating our knowledge into action. And so your action step here is to now take your formulation, to take all those internal and external blocks that you've outlined, and think about how you're going to deal with them. What is your action plan going to be based on your formulation? And that's what I do in therapy with my clients. The formulation is there so that we can sort of figure out what treatment we're going to use, so that we don't have to guess about what treatment should be used. And when you're thinking about what treatment to use for each of these blocks, I want you to think about the evidence-based treatments first. You want to use treatments that have some sort of scientific evidence for them. And that's important because imagine if you go to the pharmacy and you ask the pharmacist for some medication for a sore tummy, and they look at the medications and they go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and they pick one at random. You probably wouldn't be happy about that decision, because you want to know that the medication that they're choosing works for you. And you know that because the pharmacy has studied this. They've studied the scientific research related to how that medication impacts certain symptoms. And so you're trusting that the treatment they give you is evidence-based. You need to do the same thing with your self-help and with changing your own life. You need to look for the evidence-based treatments that are going to help you address the blocks that you've identified in your formulation. And a simple way to do that is to just Google it. You can Google, if you're struggling with internal blocks like mindset, what are some evidence-based tips to improve your mindset? If you're struggling with habit formation, you could say, what are some evidence-based treatments to form habits? There are plenty of tools and resources out there. You just need to know how to find them. So use Google. You could even use AI. You could use ChatGPT to find these things. Hey ChatGPT, what are some evidence-based treatments for this, this, and this? Now I'm lucky in my own life because I am a clinical psychologist, so I do know a lot of treatments. So when I struggled with rationalizations and that voice telling me, oh, I don't have to do this, I don't have to stick to my goals, then I use something called cognitive diffusion, which is about stepping apart from your thinking and observing your thinking so that you don't act on it. That really helped me with my rationalizations. When it came to the cravings, I practiced something called mindfulness-based relapse prevention, which is a kind of therapeutic technique where you learn to observe your cravings so that you don't give into your cravings. And again, that helped me. When it came to the external blocks, I used something called niche construction. Niche construction is basically about how can I restructure my environment to help me. So I got rid of the junk food in my house so that I don't eat it. And I also started to sleep in my gym clothes the night before so that I don't waste time in the morning. Now, once you've identified what techniques you're going to use, just as I did in my own life, you're going to want to implement it for at least a week. You want to be consistent with it for that week. Consistency beats intensity. So don't go all out on the first day. Just keep showing up day after day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Show up for all 7 days. Again, consistency beats intensity. Even people who achieve great feats at the Olympic Games, those people are there not because of the intensity of that moment, but because of the consistency of practice before that moment. Usain Bolt famously said that he trained 4 years to run 9 seconds, and most people expect results after 2 months. So you need to be consistent. And this brings me to step 4, which is progress monitoring. Because after you've implemented step 3, which is the treatment throughout the week, at the end of the week, you want to monitor whether that treatment worked or not. That's something I do with my clients because psychotherapists, we see clients on a weekly basis. So we're able to monitor how this client is making progress. But if you're not in therapy, you need to do that for yourself. You need to track whether this week has made you better or worse based on the treatments you've been using. So you need to carve out a space. Most people like a Sunday evening or perhaps a Monday morning. You need to carve out a space and turn it into a ritual, a weekly ritual, where you can monitor how the week went and whether things are working for you or not. And then there are 2 main important questions here that you have to ask. When you carve out the space, there are 2 things I want you to do. The first thing is I want you to notice whether you've made progress, and you need to do that through actual measurements. So for example, with my weight loss journey, when I measured myself before the week, I was able to use that as a reference point, as a baseline to see if I had actually lost more weight. And after the first week, I realized I did, so I knew I was making progress. But if you notice that you're not making progress, the second thing I want you to do in this progress monitoring session is to ask yourself, what needs to change? What do I need to do differently? If it didn't work for me, how can I adjust my strategy? And this is where you're going to need flexibility, because a lot of people aren't flexible. A lot of people decide what they need to do and they just run with it. They have their favorite technique, whether it be meditation or habit formation or mindset or whatever it is. They have their favorite technique and they just run with that. And they never check whether that technique is actually helping them, whether it's actually giving them results in their life. And ultimately, we care about results. I mean, why would we go through all of this effort if we're not getting the results we want? So this is where you're going to require flexibility. You need to adapt, you need to change, you need to alter, you need to tweak. It's just like if you're traveling to a physical destination and you take a left turn when you were supposed to take a right turn, the GPS recalculates. It goes through a process where it works out a new route that you need to take to be back on track. And that's what you're going to have to do here if you realize, oops, I haven't made progress actually after this week. However, if you realize that you did make progress and the week was successful, then great. I want you to turn those strategies that you're using, those treatment methods, those tactics, I want you to turn those things into habits where you can. You want to turn them into habits so that they run on autopilot. You just want to integrate it into your life. You want to make it a part of your life. And if you want to learn that, if you want to learn how to break a bad habit and replace it with a good habit, I've got a video up here that you can watch next.